Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Mr. Woods and Hartford's Community of Care for hosting this presentation. As we all know, most of us in this room, what has been done in years past and decades past has not really led to the best opportunities for many of the residents in this city. By some accounts, in some of the sectors in our city, more than 50% of the adult population has had some contact with the criminal justice system. The opportunities while incarcerated and the opportunities that are available once folks are released have led to a situation in many of our cities that really create a very difficult challenge for us, both in terms of our own economic survival as cities, but also challenging situations for our community in order to be able to succeed. So I am very supportive of our governor. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for proposing what is a very bold, assertive, and action that really can provide opportunities to tens of thousands of people across the state who seem to be stuck in a state of limbo, in a state where they cannot really take advantage of opportunities, even when opportunities are presented to them, either because they do not have the skills to be able to move to those jobs, or because the legacy of having a criminal record oftentimes impair them. We feel very strongly, I feel very strongly as mayor, that folks do deserve and should have a second chance. And that second chance is even more significant when it's provided not only with structure on the criminal justice side, but structure on the labor and training opportunity side. So I'm very glad to have you here. This is a very important issue for the city. The future of our city, of our youth and our adult population depends on programs and actions such as these so that we can move forward. I've always said that one particular effort doesn't solve all of the community's problems, but this, together with other efforts that we're having in this community, our pursuit of a Promise Zone application, our pursuit of taking advantage of My Brother's Keepers program for all those who deserve and should have a second chance. Before I turn to the governor, I just want to say that for some people, they might think that a second chance is something that's impossible. I worked as a prosecutor. I worked as a prosecutor for less than a year, I believe. And the reason why I left being a prosecutor is because I chose not to keep on incarcerating folks who I felt should not be incarcerated. I felt that I would work to basically keep people out of jail because I knew that once that happens, the chances of being able to recuperate are very strong. That's not to say we don't prosecute. What I'm saying is we prosecute at the level that you need to prosecute and where it really makes sense to prosecute in an aggressive manner in those areas in which you need to be aggressive. But I really want the governor to get into the substance of his proposals. I want to then have a roundtable discussion. I will first introduce the governor, and after the governor's remarks and presentation, then we'll introduce ourselves around the table and then engage in a roundtable discussion as to the proposals both for the Reentry Second Chance program as well as the Labor Department's program for employment and training. Thank you, Mr. Governor.
Thank you. It's great to be with everybody. It's a big crowd here. Didn't expect all these folks, but it's good to be with you. Yesterday I gave a speech at Yale University Law School about something that we've been working on for a period of time and that I think is quite necessary, and that is to start building a second chance society in our state, at least once again. You know, I frequently point out that everybody, every ethnic group, every racial group, everyone in this country looks for a second chance, and yet, and quite frankly, as I say in churches, people go to church every Sunday for a second chance. But yet, as a country, we have been for too long, I think, but although relatively recently, in our history, but for too long now, been a country that turned its back on people that made mistakes and actually was engaging in forms of lifelong or permanent punishment, and applying those levels of punishment to nonviolent offenses, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. So I've been working on this for a period of time, and some of the things that I think we need to put in perspective are that Connecticut is experiencing a crime rate at a 48-year low. Meaning that fewer crimes, I'm not talking about arrests, fewer crimes are being perpetrated in our state than most of the folks looking around here have been on the earth. And then a few of us old guys like me, we don't fall into that category. Our prison population has gone. The number of young people going to prison has gone down. We're making real progress. And you might say, well, why don't we just take credit for the progress we've made and leave it at that? But what I said yesterday and what I say today is that we need to take it to the next level. And we need to make sure that fewer people end up with a criminal record, that more people are able to clear a permanent record once they've proven they deserve that to happen, that people shouldn't be denied housing opportunities or educational opportunities because of crimes or mistakes that they've made in the past. So I've been very clear that I am proposing new legislation that reclassifies simple drug possession offenses as misdemeanors. Other states, like California, are already reaping the benefit of that. Let me put it in perspective. When we decriminalized marijuana in the following year and years, we've seen about 6,000 fewer arrests than we were seeing previously. That means that we have a judicial system that can pay attention to the things that are really important, the violent crimes and more serious crimes. And now I think it's time that we get away from treating simple possession as a felony and leaving someone in a situation where they automatically end up with a felony conviction for that possession. I also believe that we need to give judges discretion and eliminate mandatory minimums for nonviolent offenses. We invest in our judges. We put them on the bench because we believe they'll do the right thing. If they don't do the right thing, we should remove them from the bench. But tying their hands, particularly with respect to as many offenses as we've now tied their hands doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so I believe that we need to address that. I also believe that we need to streamline pardons and parole system. We need to modernize that system. We need to expedite parole hearings for nonviolent offenders. As soon as those individuals become eligible, no one should remain in jail a day longer than required, and we need to move things along as rapidly as we can, and we need to get parole and pardons distributed when appropriate as soon as they could be made available. We need to streamline the pardon process for nonviolent offenders in particular so that they have the opportunity at employment. And we may need to make sure that nonviolent felons become aware of the date that they are eligible for a pardon so that they can begin that process. So when someone leaves jail, when someone's meeting with their parole officer or other individuals, they need to be constantly reminded that there's a target out there. The target should be that you deserve and you earn, I should say you earn, and therefore deserve a pardon for nonviolent offenses at some point after you've proven that you've learned your lesson. In the absence of that, we've made it terribly difficult for many, many individuals in our communities, particularly housed in our urban environments, to find employment. And I think it's time to change that. And we need to create jobs and housing opportunities as well for nonviolent, non-repeat offenders, including adult education and job training for those offenders. And we need to ensure offenders have access to housing, along with mental health treatment and services to reduce recidivism and to ensure that they have a second chance. My administration has been actively engaged for the last 4 years in seeing housing being built in our state. I'm particularly happy that we're building more housing with services built in. We need to continue down that path and use that type of housing as a way to make it easier for people to regain their position in society. Those are a few of the things that we are talking about. I do do have the Deputy Labor Commissioner who's with us, who can talk about, for instance, our repeating or using the iBest program as a model, which we'll put money into here in Hartford initially, to enlarge that program and to make and to prove that these programs can be successful in our communities on a larger scale basis. That's a very quick summary, and I think the speech was 25 minutes yesterday, so that's a quick summary of some of the main points. But let me say this, that other states, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, California, are doing some of the things that I've just talked about. In fact, all of those states are doing at least one of those things that I've talked about. Those are Republican states with Republican governors and Republican legislatures. What I'm saying is we need to do this in a comprehensive package, move forward rapidly, give the tools to our Commissioner of Corrections so that he can implement the changes that he feels are needed as well, and he's with us, and begin the process of recreating a second chance society here in Connecticut as rapidly as we can. Final point, I think over the last 40 years, what we were doing to some extent, we're taking people who were guilty of nonviolent offenses, putting them in jail where they learn the skill set to be lifelong criminals. And in some cases, violent criminals. We know what happens when people go to a prison. They're frequently under pressure to join or align with people who engage in behaviors that they have not previously engaged in, very frequently on a group or gang basis. We need to break that connection as well, and that's what I'm trying to do with this package. I'll give it back to you, Mayor, or...
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, I'll start with Mr. Woods, if you want to...
Sure, thank you.
Introduce, maybe say...
Absolutely. Well, you know, as the Executive Director of HCTC, we've worked extensively with families and youth inside this particular neighborhood and citywide. And some of the things, Governor, about your policies that strike me as something that I think is going to be extremely helpful, at least I'll touch on a few things, is that when we look at females that have records, and the difficulties and the challenges that they face, not only with, you know, we often talk about males, and by all means, a lot of brothers inside urban areas have big challenges with re-entering employment fields, but also getting housing. But we oftentimes don't focus or pay attention to the females that are out there, mothers who are having serious challenges getting back in the systems or getting back in the housing and qualifying for housing. And I mean, when I drive around the streets of Hartford oftentimes, if it's late at night, I see more females now on the streets that under better conditions would not be on the street. And this number is increasing inside these urban areas. And when I look at and start knowing exactly who a lot of these females are, in fact, many of them are individuals who have had trouble with the law and no longer qualify for certain entitlements that would have put them inside a place, rather it's an efficiency apartment or getting some kind of entry-level position on a job and so forth. And so for me, these particular policies, I believe, will help, you know, deal with some of those issues. The other thing, too, is that when I look at brothers inside this room, many of them that, that some of which I've hired, some of which want to be hired by our agency, these are individuals who have committed non-violent offenses, but we're having difficult times getting their records expunged and so forth in that long process of getting that done. And how that actually, these are men that basically have done extraordinary jobs of turning their lives around, pursued higher education or completed their GED. We got brothers across that hallway and females that are inside a job training program. But when it comes down to getting their records expunged, that process, if we can get that streamlined, that certainly is a piece that I find appealing to your proposals here. And I thank you for that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lady, we can introduce yourself then.
She already did. She told me she graduated from one of the training programs given here, and that she's had the opportunity to hire 27 individuals from the over the past number of years, about 18 or 19 of them from this program, currently employing 5 individuals, so she's pretty successful.
She's got a good memory, don't you?
I got a good memory. A little bit off. Let me speak. My name is Giselle Jacobs, and yes, I am a graduate of the North Star Center for Human Development. I graduated with 16 certifications, asbestos supervisors, lead abatement. I also took it a step further and became licensed at the state of Connecticut as a licensed lead inspector back in 2011. And however, in May May of 2014, I decided to expand my scope of work to include construction, commercial, and residential cleaning because I found that with my being a licensed lab inspector, no one else can work with me. I have to do that on my own. However, with expanding my scope of work to include the cleaning, I was able to hire and train individuals to clean and work with me on several contracts throughout the state. As a matter of fact, our first contract that we got was out at Camp Harkin out near New London area, and it was to clean 5 cabins. Should have taken us a day to do it. I only needed 4 individuals to clean those cabins. I ended up bringing 6 individuals with me, therefore having to rent a van to drive out to Camp Harkin, and that one-day job turned into a 2-day job. We did such a great job, they doubled our pay, and one of those individuals who was on the job with us had just come home from serving 15 years in the federal penitentiary. He had all of his commercial licenses, commercial cleaning licenses, so he, of course, made big bucks. His daughter, as a matter of fact, was involved with the youth program that we began having in my living room back in 2010. Children of Color organization. It's a 501c3 for children of incarcerated parents. That was also the reason why I decided to do more to help those parents who were returning home from incarceration, having found that they are coming home, they're unable to find work, they're unable to take care of their children and families. They don't want to throw bricks back up against the penitentiary, but without finding work, they're feeling as though they're left with no other choice. Yes, since May of 2014 up until present, I have hired 24 individuals, 17 of which are ex-offenders. I am currently working on a contract at one of our insurance companies here in our community, which I can see from my, well, actually from the floor we work on, I can see my house. Anyways. And looking for individuals to work on that particular project, I was unable to find any young black males that did not have a criminal background that was able to go into that contract. And that was disheartening. That was very disheartening. It's also disheartening when we continue to come out into our community, we see so much work going on, and there's so little of us on the jobs. That's right. So that's another reason why I'm here. So yes, I'm the owner of Sister Soldier Environmental Services. I'm grateful that Andrew invited me to be here. I'm a lifelong resident of Hartford, veteran, honorably discharged. There's some other things that I would like to say to you personally as it relates to what you shared about not allowing our individuals from our community, children and families, to even end up with a criminal record. There's some things that's going on in our system that I've personally experienced, and I'm fully aware that other individuals in our community are facing as well, that's setting our children up.
Yeah, there's absolutely, in the longer speech which I gave yesterday, I kind of talked about this school to prison pipeline that exists, and those kinds of pipelines will exist and will prosper in situations where opportunity is not seen and not distributed. So I'm well aware of that. I'm taking steps to address it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tiana?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tiana Hercules, Director of Project Longevity here in the city of Hartford. As most of you know, it's an anti-group violence initiative that focuses on gun violence and more specifically group-related gun violence in the city of Hartford. We are now statewide under the governor's leadership here in Hartford, New Haven, as well as Bridgeport. And I definitely applaud the governor for proposing what seems to be both sound economic and social policy that I'm hoping will get bipartisan support to be implemented, because as we work through longevity to focus on very serious violent offenses, we recognize that many of those who may be engaged in group dynamics and gang dynamics do not have violent offenses and do not have a violent criminal record. However, they are faced with the same barriers and not able to successfully reintegrate into the community. And so some of what you propose would definitely help our efforts as we work to help, find employment and different opportunities for those individuals. But I would also be interested in hearing, in addition to streamlining the pardons process, how we as a community can better engage the private sector to really get them to understand the importance of giving people second chances, and how you're not only investing into an individual and in their family, but really in the community. And so if there's things that we can be doing on a community-wide level to better engage some of our employers to help get some people hired who do face this barrier, I'd be really interested in discussing that. So.
Yeah, no, I think that this ultimately has to lead to that. These are our initial steps, but in in a perfect world, when someone has proven themselves, again, worthy of confidence, they should get that confidence, and that translates into a job.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sue Gudgerman. I'm the Job Placement Coordinator for the STRIDE program and also the co-chair of the Greater Hartford Reentry Council. I'm wearing two hats today. My program, the STRIDE program, we work with incarcerated parents pre- and post-release at 4 correctional facilities across our state, and we provide workforce development training inside. My role as the co-chair of the Greater Hartford Reentry Council, we are one of 5 councils across the state. You're going to meet with our counterparts in Bridgeport tomorrow. We are a group of individuals, statewide, nonprofits, all come together every single month to identify barriers that you've addressed in your proposal, and we hope to work on policy and education within our community. I have a very passionate group of individuals working together with me, and many of them are in the room today here to listen to what you have to say. And our goals for this coming year are legislative advocacy, working on maybe developing a mentor program, maybe with Hartford Correctional Center, and also a reentry service center. We are very passionate, this group would love to see a reentry service center as Mayor DeStefano did in New Haven, and we feel this would be a benefit to the city of Hartford and maybe even on a statewide level to do something of that nature. We feel a proposal, we have drafted a proposal, so that's something that we've done. Just another highlight that we've done, we're working on our 5th Reentry Employment and Resource Fair. The mayor and Commissioner Semple were part of that this past year. We spoke. It was highly successful. We had over 200 participants join us, over 60 employers and resource vendors that were there, many individuals, and this was a job fair similar to what the Department of Labor did, but when you walked in, everyone was treated all the employers there were going to hire someone with a record, so it was something that was really important for the individuals that were there. They felt respected, they felt empowered, and that there was hope in this room. It was very empowering to see, and we look forward, maybe you'll join us at this year's in September, and things like that. Another highlight, our collaborative has also done what's called Connecticut Reentry Voices. It's a newsletter. It's something that we're putting success stories out there. I'm so grateful for the media to be here today because we don't always hear the positive. We always hear the negative. The 3 big cities are always in the news for negative reasons, and I'm grateful that they're here today to cover something positive in the steps that we're going to take in the future. One last comment. Purple States, Connecticut is looking to do a documentary here in Connecticut studying reentry and recidivism over the next year. They're going to follow 15 individuals from day 1 out of incarceration through the year, and New York Times and Frontline PBS are signed on as well to cover some of these issues that may come up over that year. So a lot of things going on statewide, and I'm very grateful that you put this proposal out there. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you for your service.
Pastor?
I'm Steve Camp, pastor at Faith Congregational Church, and just 2 real quick things. Governor, I guess I need to say a thank you to you. About a year and a half ago, a group of clergy and I sat in your office, and we talked about this conversation we're having today, and you promised at that time that you were going to work on this, and this was going to be a priority, and I want to say thank you that you kept your promise, and I appreciate that. The other thing I would say to you is I recognize as a part of the church that there is a line between church and state, but there is no line between church and community. And so we really do want to figure out ways that we can partner with all of the agencies that you run and head, and all of the ways that the church community, the mosque and the synagogue can be a partner in this conversation. It's not easy, but we know that we need to be there as part of the community, and we need to be in this conversation in a meaningful way. That may mean before end of sentence, some of the men and women might come to church or come to Bible study. It might mean finding the church as a way or a conduit for finding the jobs in the community and helping to connect people in ways that the church has always historically done. We've got a role to play, and I hope that as we go forward and as your plans really begin to unfold and the legislature does all that it needs to do in appropriating the right resources in the right places, that the church community and the religious community in general will be a significant partner in this conversation, particularly in the black and brown community, because that's where still, even though sometimes we don't always get it right in the church community, we often get it right more often these days, and we're trying to make a good example. So thank you, and also it is a plea that this is a step. This is not the end of the journey.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Semple. I'm the recently nominated Commissioner of Correction and Governor, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having me at this round table. My first meetings with the Governor, he was loud and clear about what his expectations were for this agency. We are totally engaged in an effort to complement the Governor's initiatives. Some of the things we're doing we are moving very aggressively, and I've talked to some folks in this room. I apologize, it may be redundant, but one of the more exciting things that we're doing that I have the opportunity to share with you today that is totally aligned to the Governor's direction and will make strides in reentry initiatives is that we are going to be, in the very near future, in the next couple of months, renaming a correctional facility to a community reintegration center. It'll be totally aligned to partnering with the major cities in our state, and also aligning and streamlining the process with our nonprofit providers, so they have a place at the table, and that we can increase the capability of someone being successful in the community. We're very excited about this. It's moving very, very fast. We believe that we're going to be able to start this program in April. So I'm excited to acknowledge that we're going in that direction. We have a number of other initiatives that are going in the same path of the correct part of corrections. So I'm pleased to be here with you today, and thank you for having me.
Thanks.
My name is State Representative Edwin Vargas. I represent the south end of the city of Hartford, 6th Assembly District, and I'm happy to be here today. I have to apologize that I won't be able to stay long. I have another commitment, but I didn't want to miss this because I want to congratulate the governor on taking this position, because, as we know, there's a lot of hypocrisy involved in this. And when you take these positions, you become an easy target for people that somehow believe you're soft on law and order, when nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is that this hypocritical war on drugs has actually eroded our democratic institutions and has corrupted many of our government agencies. It's every so often we hear about a high-ranking U.S. law enforcement official at the federal, county, state, municipal level arrested at the border because of the drug business. People making $125,000 a year with health insurance, with benefits, with 20-year retirement, respected pillars of the community, and yet caught in stings, including the directing agent of the FBI, Border Patrol, Texas County Sheriffs, U.S. California Highway Patrol, police, municipal police chiefs. We're talking about high-ranking U.S. law enforcement officials being caught up in the drug trade. This is eroding. I know that we don't have much time here today. This is a brief, but I will just use one example. One individual, Felipe Calderon, past president of Mexico from 2006 to 2012. They have a 6-year term for their president there. He promised the Mexican people that it would be easy to win the war on drugs. All you needed was the political will to do so. For his 6 years as president of Mexico, Felipe Calderon unleashed the Mexican Marines, the federal police on northern Mexico, arrested entire municipal police departments for their association with the cartels, killed 70,000 people in northern Mexico, and today the drug situation there is worse than ever. Instead of 3 or 4 older cartel leaders, that were trying to act as diplomats and carve up turf, Sinaloa, Gulf, cartel, the Tijuana cartel. Now you have hundreds of little capos trying to fight to be top dog there, and the violence has increased exponentially. So, you know, people that are more eloquent than I, Dick Gregory and others, have said this war was never meant to be won. It was just meant to be fought. It was fought in the inner cities, and it wasn't much of a problem. But now that it's seeped into suburban white communities, into the middle class, it's cut across all socioeconomic classes. People are waking up, and I think the time is right. The governor has taken the bull by the horns. I have a bill, House Bill 5838, that after 5 years, when you're done with the court system and you finish your parole, if for 5 years you've been clean, you should be able to request an expungement of your record for a drug conviction. I'd like to see that bill heard. I've talked to the co-chairs of Judiciary to see if we can get a public hearing on that bill. I also would like to align us with Colorado in terms of totally decriminalizing marijuana, and I've got a bill on that too, 6003. But I think the governor, in the Second Chance Initiative, has really set the stage for the debate. Now it's important to all of us who believe in this. You know, I'm an educator, 35 years working with Hartford Public Kids, seeing kids destroyed by this whole drug business, seeing people followed with the stigma of a drug conviction record for the rest of their lives, making it impossible for them to support themselves and their families. So this is our opportunity, when we have those public hearings, of mobilizing our constituency and calling this what it is. It's a hypocrisy. This war on drugs is nothing but a hypocritical thing. I believe, frankly, that the number one supporters of continuing this war on drug are the drug cartels that have made a business out of this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you, Governor, and others around the table. I'll be quick. I see this as a groundbreaking moment, and not only in these communities, but also in my life as a person who received a second chance. Being here at this table is something that you don't foresee, but if you work hard enough and you do the things that you're supposed to do, you can get here. And this is an opportunity for us to showcase that to other young men and women who may not believe that that's the case. Currently, our program, the Peace Builders program in Hartford, provides services for young people who are 13 to 18, who at a very early age believe they've already lost every opportunity. So being able to communicate this message to them is something that's really important. So I thank you, Governor, thank you, Mayor, and everyone else around the table for the wonderful work that you do, and I'm excited to take on this challenge.
Great. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Murphy. I'm the Deputy Commissioner, Department of Labor. My role in this is to handle the IBEST program that's going to result from this. Just a few general observations. We know that contextualized learning works. Many of these folks coming out of prison find it difficult to sit in a formal educational setting. But if they're on the job learning both the job and basic educational skills of reading and math skills, it works. There's retention rates that work, and we have some examples in the state that show it. The Hartford Foundation gave some money to the Capital Workforce Partners, and they had a cohort of IBEST folks. Many of them were ex-offenders. 79% of them ended up with a job. It was a small cohort, but that's very good compared to our other basic programs. Our WIA program, roughly 59% end up employed. Our JAFIS program, it's down to 34% after going through some training programs. So we know this works. And generally we know there's a return on investment, not just the imprisonment skills, or costs rather, that recidivism takes from taxpayers, but these people pay taxes. They pay taxes to the state and to the federal government. They don't end up on TANF benefits or other benefits, federal benefits. So generally it works, so we're going to have a program here in Hartford and then go statewide. It's important to note that the jobs we're looking at here are middle skill jobs. These are, many of which don't require an associate's degree or a certification program. By middle skills, I mean living wage jobs, right? I mean, these jobs we define as 200% of the federal poverty rate. So that's the goal. We know it works. We know there's a return on investment. We estimate within 2 years, we'll get the money back with the money that's invested into this program. And over 10 years, there's an estimate of 2.42 rate of return, a present value return over 10 years of these kinds of investments. Their educational skills go up through the CASA standard testing that we have, and so it works. We should invest in it. The governor's proposal is an intelligent one, and we're ready to work it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Ravel. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Hartford. And you may wonder why an urban chief is sitting at this table with reentry folks and church people and social people. Back with conversations between the governor and the mayor when I first took over, we talked about lowering arrests, and we have lowered arrests by over 4,000 adults over the last 2 years. We've also lowered arrests 400 juveniles over the last couple of years. There's a lot of working parts in here, and that is the disruption of that pipeline between school and prison. I want to thank you, Governor and Mayor, for all your leadership, and I also want to thank you for the breaking down the silos within law enforcement. Tiana, you've been a great partner. The commissioner has been a fantastic partner, Connecticut State Police. And it's all breaking down those silos to make those resources all the more valuable. And we're on board for the next step. This is building on success, and we really want to contribute as an urban police chief. And I'm sure the other police chiefs in New Haven and Bridgeport and Waterbury, the bigger cities, are all on board with this. So thank you very much.
Reverend Watkins.
Hi, I'm Pastor Watkins, the pastor of Mount Olive Church Ministries. I've been here about a year now, and the governor and I have had numerous opportunities to dialogue. And, you know, being an outsider looking in, I'm from the Buffalo, New York area. I see some of the same problems. I'm on the north end that I saw in Buffalo. You know,
Did you bring this snow with you from Buffalo?
I've been here a year. Everybody's blaming me for that. You know, I told the church today I feel like I'm right at home. But, you know, looking at some of the issues in this city on the north end, first of all, as you know, as a minister of the gospel, we always preach about a second chance, And seeing my congregation grow by over 520 new members in a year, the common thread is, you know, Pastor, I've been locked up, I've gone to prison, I need another opportunity. I've tried to get work, you know, and know if some of my members have felonies and different things like that. So, you know, people like Kevin Utar, who's here, a member of my church, each first Saturday of the month, we have empowerment seminars for men at Mount Olive. Those who have been ex-offenders and who are trying to get integrated back in society. As a church, we're doing something, we're doing our part, but we also want to collaborate, you know, with the governor and what he's trying to do, because I think it's amazing to provide. The biggest thing is employment. You know, once I've been locked up, number one, how do I get integrated back into regular society, and how can I find work? Because if they don't find work right away, they're going to be seeing the chief again, or they're going to, you know, it's going to continue to be this cycle that's been going on. So I believe this second chance society plan has the potential to break this cycle. And I know myself and other faith-based leaders are going to partner with you, Governor, in breaking the cycle and building up our community. So that's why I'm at the table, and I thank you for inviting me here today.
Thank you. And Pastor Andujo?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Governor and Mayor. We give honor to you. I think it's so appropriate that we would address, you know, the plight of males, and specifically black males, who are plagued during the month of Black History Month. So I think the timing is great. I'm black and brown, so I'm not biased either way. But any persons that are incarcerated need reentry. I'm here to talk on behalf of North Star, which has a reentry program already for many years. And so if you have persons who need employment, training, life skills, send them my way, because we have a program that places 80% of its participants in employment. And so we want to continue that, Governor, partnering with you and others to make sure that Department of Corrections and others, we can catch them even before they get out. Maybe we can train them as far as their reading skills and math skills while they're incarcerated, by the time they get out, they can go through a program like ours and others, and then go right into the workforce and be productive citizens. So we just want to continue the work that we've already done for many years.
Well, thank you. Let me say that the commissioner is speaking from his head and his heart, and wants to get these things done. It's why I asked him and was successful in convincing him that he should keep this job, and I'm very happy that he's done it. I think one of the things that we can evidence in state government around this point, as well as around the issues of lowering crime and lowering the number of people incarcerated, is that we are not a silo-based administration any longer, that we have commissioners sitting around a table trying to resolve issues, whether it's higher education, talking about education issues with elementary school education, or whether it's the service providers around the table, because a lot of these folks need to be wrapped in services and have the opportunity to receive those on an ongoing basis. It's one of the reasons that I like housing complexes with service centers within them. We need to break down continue the process of breaking down those silos as they exist in government, but outside of government as well. And so to touch upon the idea that we would work with religious communities is spot on. I think we need to get this package legislatively enacted, because the parts that I've talked to you about require legislation. There'll be other executive actions that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks in furtherance of the reestablishment of a second chance society, and we appreciate the opportunities to talk about these things. It's not a mistake that we gave the speech in New Haven. We're doing a table today in Hartford. We'll do a table tomorrow in Bridgeport, as we try to move the state forward to lower crime and second chance, and do it at the same time. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the mayor for having us here today and participating as you have. Chief, thank you very much as well. We have collaborated on this and other things, and let's go forward and get this thing done. But also, we need people to understand that Connecticut hasn't been safer in 48 years. Now's the time to get it to take it to the next step, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, thank you, Mr. Governor. A big challenge in our community is hope. And sometimes that's in short supply, and this really renews the hope of many in our community. And I see a lot of people who are willing to work together to make this work. So we thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.